Hopefully people will come back. Hopefully we don't have static. Check, check, 1, 2. Check, check, 1, 2. All right. Audio seems to be working now. I don't know what happened. I got kicked off. So it totally... Thank you, guys. It completely ended our live stream for some reason. And when I reconnected, everyone was gone. And so I went to YouTube and it was gone there. I'm very sorry. I will edit the other one appropriately. We'll try and get things squared away. Hello, Carolyn. Okay, that's better. We tried to start with T, but apparently I wrecked that. So I don't know what's happening with the audio. We started to... I can hear clearly now, the pain is gone. I have done nothing different the past 2 weeks, and it has been trash for the audio. It starts weird. It's the same setup I've always done. So, howdy, Paulette. How are you? So we will start with tea, and then we will discuss Ricki. Tonight we are having a apple cinnamon, which tastes very much like fall, even though it is spring. It's beautiful out right now. Flowers are blooming. Seeds are sprouting. We cut up some potatoes this afternoon to get ready to put into the ground. It's just been great to be outside. It's been a really busy week, but we're going to get into that in a little bit. Yeah. AKA Jeff says computers. Exactly, man. So, oh, hey, Joe. Joe says, hello, Brian, and everybody here in the chat. I'm not sure how many of you remember seeing Ricki the Tavi in our chat. He came over from my brother's channel. He was a gardening fellow. I believe it was Oregon, maybe up by Washington. But anyway, somewhere up in the Pacific Northwest. And we sent several emails back and forth. He was always very active in the chat. And sometimes he would leave our live stream to go watch CNN. He would always say he was strong enough to handle jumping into like enemy territory. It was really funny. And sometimes, I mean, he was a very eccentric fellow. His emails were, sometimes I had a hard time tracking. Sean asks if he was a Christian, and to be honest, I'm not sure. We had some conversations. Adam says he lived in Portland. There you go. Yep, thank you. I know he was aware of Christ. What his personal relationship was, I cannot say. But I had no idea the man was sick. And Lynn from Karma Happy Toes sent me an email last week informing me of his passing and that he had been sick apparently for some time and had a lot of health complications. He was a veteran, has a couple of estranged sisters. But he not only supported the channel and us and our little group here by being active and chatting with us, but he also sent us a gift certificate to Karma Happy Toes' business. That's what Lynn runs. If any of you are interested in her information, I'll post it in the description, the email address at least. And we were dealing directly with her because he wanted to make sure that Mrs. Flannel picked the right things for what we're doing. And he, anyways, his name was Richard. I do know that. And he was one of the first subscribers. For those of you that are new joining us from Deep South Homestead, we've grown something like 350 subscribers in the past couple weeks, in large part due to people from Deep South Homestead coming over here. So if you're new to our channel, welcome. We talk about tea first. But My brother is David the Good, and he's the one that encouraged me to get into YouTube. And Ricki was a subscriber over there long before over here. So he was one of the ones that came over almost a year ago when we first started. And again, was very active, cared for us a lot. And so it's sad that we won't see him around anymore. But there is a season for everything, and we thank him for his service to the country and for the time that he did spend with us. And I tell you, he was always cheerful. All his emails were upbeat. He never mentioned being sick. He never mentioned any of his own problems. He sent me several videos of like himself at different cool places and things like that through the email, and pictures of different things. And he marched to the beat of a different drum, I tell you. So anyways, Ricki, we'll miss you. So yeah, that was sad. Janet says she's coming from deep south, and Zach says found y'all through Permapastures. We did actually get, I think, 30 or 40 people from Permapastures. Billy is a super cool dude. I really enjoyed talking to him. I think the interview that we did is going to be posted on his channel also. I know all of you clearly saw it here, but he's gonna post it over there. And I think, well, I don't want to give anything away about what he's doing, so I'm not going to say anything. But Billy's a very cool dude. So we had a interesting week this week. Typically what we do on our live streams too, for those of you who are new and whatever, we kind of give some behind the scenes stuff on what's been going on with the homestead that doesn't necessarily fit well in a 10 or 12 minute video. We answer any questions you guys might have. We talk a bit of behind the scenes with the channel, numbers, how things are going, those kind of things. It's kind of a family chat in the evenings. Sometimes I have a very specific monologue that I want to share. Sometimes the Lord puts things on my heart that just eat at me all week, and then I ruminate on them and think about them, and then I bring them to you. That's happened the past couple weeks. I don't have anything quite so specific, but I do have a question I wanted to answer that was over on Sean Lamont or Neilman's site. But let me give you a little background for about this week, and then we'll jump into that. I was driving to work. I worked this week Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday. I'm a firefighter paramedic full time. Besides having a small stump grinding business, a small homestead, trying to do food security, wife, kids, fun stuff. Pure One says, I joined last week from the interview with Permapastures. Glad to be with good people. Thank you. We're glad you're here. And I live roughly 60 plus miles away from my job. That's how we could afford to buy the property. So we, cool. Pure One says, that's awesome. Critical paramedic here. Woohoo! I have PALS ACLS and PHTLS. I think that would mean something to you. Oh no. You know who's not here? Actually, I just realized, Brett is not here. Beth, hello. My normal moderator isn't here. Carolyn, you want to be a moderator? Let's do that. Carolyn's going to be a moderator now. Bing. There we go. All right, Carolyn. Hi, Karen. Good. If you see any spam, please delete it for me. All right, so we live very far away from the homestead, and I have a old. Karen, we talked about Ricki for a little bit, so you'll see it in the first 5 minutes when you watch the replay. So I have an old 2001 Ford F350 dually that we bought because it's a 7.3 liter diesel, and I had driven the roughly 58 miles or so and just got onto the interstate, and the gas pedal hit the floor. I had electric, but the motor died, wouldn't turn over, and so I pull over on the interstate, and of course I'm towing my trailer, right, because it's the only time I take the truck in. And I was picking up the stump grinder from my stump grinding partner. I have a buddy that does it, and Morgan says, hey everybody. Hi, Morgan. And so I this is most of where I go is highway, and then there's a little bit of interstate right before my station, and I had just hit the interstate, which is like the scariest place in the world to be broken down. And of course, I'm pulling a trailer. Thankfully, I'm in the fire department, so I'm a lieutenant, and I have a captain. He's in charge of me, obviously, so I called him and let him know what was going on. And they sent a truck to come get my trailer. And while they were doing that, I realized after popping the hood that I had blown a high pressure diesel line, and it's an oil, actually a high pressure oil line. The oil runs the fuel injectors on that system. It ended up being a $17 part and a couple wrenches, and I normally report for duty at about 8 o'clock in the morning, and by 10:30 we had the truck repaired and back at the station. So that was a huge relief. We got our stump grinder back, it's running. We did a massive 100-inch stump job on Friday. We also cut a tree down, that was what the picture was from earlier. And we've had family here. The RV that was out front has been sold. It was our sister's RV, and she sold it, so it's off the property. And gosh, we've just been running around. We've had company here. It's just been an incredibly busy week. So we are trying to kind of get caught up. I've been filming some content. I have things to edit. And as you guys know, our internet here is not very good, so uploading videos wipes out the internet for like 12 hours when I try and do it here. So if you are new to our channel and you notice that like over a 3-day period there's a whole dump of content, that's because I film it all throughout the week when I'm off duty, and then I take it to work and I edit it, and then I shoot it out. I try and space it out every couple days, but everything tends to be a week behind, so everything you're going to see has already happened. Sometimes we talk about it here, but the mite problem seems to be doing better. We haven't noticed any more spread. We got a bunch of good tips from you guys. I really appreciate it. Everything from wood ash to Danny and Wanda recommended mineral oil on their roosts to help keep the mites down. So that was all very, very useful. We burned all the hay, and the birds seem to be happy, seem to be doing well. So we're going to keep an eye on them. Somebody had mentioned quarantining birds when you buy them and put them together. And what we didn't explain, I guess, in the video that maybe we should have was we bought those birds 6 months ago and they were quarantined. We didn't notice this mite problem until I think about a month ago when the first bird died. And we don't know how old the rescue birds are. They do have shaved beaks, which we talked about, which is terrible. So they seem to be doing better, but we'll keep on keeping on with that. Sean said something. I'm sorry. Let me roll up here real quick. Boom. Karen's a moderator too. Sean says, speaking of other channels, trying to email your brother because he said he might be interested in selling a camera and he's hard to get a hold of. Prefer to buy from him than some pick and eBayer. Okay, Sean, I'll have him check his emails. I'll give him a holler. He's actually less online now than he used to be. He's taken a bit of a step back from things, so he's working really hard to edit and upload videos and stuff, but he doesn't spend the time quite that he used to being plugged in, as it were. So I will let him know. So I do have a bit of a monologue for you guys. This was the second part. Kind of, we talked about Ricki. I was over watching Sean the Modern Yeoman's video, and somebody had posted in a very thoughtful manner that they wondered how people such as Sean and the Kramer life, and consequently any of us who own land, can kind of justify owning essentially a huge tract of land. I mean, if you own a couple acres, that is a incredible amount of land, depending on your perspective, right? Compared to New York or Tokyo, it's an ungodly amount of space, and compared to, I don't know, maybe Montana, it's nothing, right? But and this I don't know if it was a gentleman or a lady, they them, just kidding. It was not said vitriolically, is that a word? Just was curious. And if you've read The Pendulum, which I haven't, but my wife has, so it's like I've read it. We share the same brain. She's laughing. Um, it it explains the we versus me in society. And the 80s were a me time, cocaine, fast cars, Wall Street, grab all you can. We've been swinging toward a we time. And while you think a we time sounds really great, what that means more is the great collective, the great society, socialistic type tendencies. And this guy asked, what how do you justify that when there are people? I think he used an example of people that live in desert regions that cannot grow their own food. It's basically impossible, and they struggle and everything else. And I thought about it for a while, and I have come up with a whole bunch of ideas. So if this gets all gobbledygooked, I'm sorry. But the basic premise has to start with what you believe about man. If you believe that man is basically good, then a fair society makes sense. It can be achieved. We just haven't tried hard enough yet. I don't believe man is basically good. I believe that man is basically evil, and I think that society points to that. And there's all kinds of examples we can use. My favorite is you don't have to teach a child to lie, cheat, and steal, or to be disobedient, or to do whatever they want to do, instant gratification. We have to teach self-discipline, right? We have to teach tell the truth even if it's hard. We teach you have to share things. Those things must be taught. If man were basically good, those things would be inherent in us. So, when you have to govern a population of people that is basically evil as opposed to basically good, how do you do that? And while idealistically socialism and such makes wonderful sense in the fact that if, yes, we just gave everybody 1 acre of land and we gave everybody a plow, wouldn't they all just go make their own food? And the short answer is no. At Plymouth Rock, they tried that way before socialism was ever named as a thing. And they weren't going to own land. It was going to be a giant community thing. And, well, yeah, Karen says, I think man is basically self-centered, which is evil. Selfishness is evil. Sinful, whatever label you want to use. And it didn't work, right? People were hungry and everything else. So they said, fine, you get this land, you get this land, and you get this land. And then if you don't work it, you don't eat. And what do you know? They had a huge amount of food. They had tons of prosperity. So the basic concept boils down to how do you govern a selfish people? And the short answer is to harness it. Now, I think most of us agree that you cannot legislate morality. Okay, what I mean by that is just by making a law doesn't mean that somebody won't do it. If that was the case, we wouldn't have any violence, we wouldn't have any drug use, we wouldn't have list whatever thing that we have made illegal. Hey, Bobert, welcome. Because it is an immoral thing, so we're not going to do these things. It doesn't happen. We just have people that end up in jail. So how do you harness that? And what the founders understood, and other governments have understood, was that if you allow people to pursue their self-interest without inflicting harm on others, they will prosper. And that's the way it has, that's the ideal. Okay, I don't know how long it's actually ever been that way. The government taxes people, and that imposes on our freedom. It imposes on your right to self-determination. We have, ordinances now and every kind of county law and different things you can think of that infringe on all of those things, all of your pursuit of happiness. Again, not to infringe on other people. So that's why on one hand, it's okay to own land and to own things and to pursue your self-interest, because the amount, if I grow excess, I have too many eggs. Let's just use eggs for an example. I have too many eggs. Everyone doesn't buy eggs from me, even though I have lots of delicious eggs. So what do? I give them to people because I have extra. And I spent a lot of money making eggs. So is that fair that I give away these eggs? Well, no, I should be compensated. But I like to give away eggs. So I give away eggs. And I only am able to do that because I have more than my family needs. So once you are able to go above and beyond your basic needs, you are able to give. That's why the United States has been the most generous nation, I believe, in world history, because many people producing this excess has allowed for generosity. It's also allowed for incredible levels of selfishness, crony capitalism, and all sorts and other manners of evil. So this is not rose-colored glasses idealistic. It's still a flawed system because humans are involved. Humans are flawed. Anytime people are involved, it's a disaster. So we try and harness, in some ways, the worst part of humanity in order to produce something good. The other thing is, it is not a zero-sum game. Okay? We have a hard time with this concept, and I'm sure many of you were told, right? Eat your vegetables because they're starving children in China. Pretty soon we'll all be speaking Mandarin. That's a different story. How does my vegetables have? I didn't take them from the poor children in China or whatever country that you decide to pick. It's not a zero-sum game. Me having 15 acres here was not because I stole it from some poor guy, some poor farmer in a third world country. So it's not a bad thing. It's not evil. In fact, the Bible states quite clearly that providing for your family is a great thing. Working with your hands and making food and enjoying the work of your hands are good things. We get that twisted when we think that prosperity equals, if we don't have prosperity, God is not blessing us. And I do not believe at all in a prosperity gospel because he says, for you were put to death all day long for my name's sake. Well, that doesn't sound very prosperous. And in Revelation, there are the martyred saints in white coats or white robes, whatever, underneath the throne crying out for justice. There are wonderful, godly people who are killed every day for the gospel. You're not going to tell me that they don't get the gospel right, they don't understand it because they don't have a bunch of material wealth. That's where our Americanism has crept into the church. So, I was hoping to find that gentleman. He ended up deleting his comment. And he didn't delete it nastily. He just said, hey, he said that the people on the channel seemed nice. He enjoyed the content. What didn't seem like a bad guy. I was really hoping that he would show up and we could talk about it because there was a lot I wanted to tell him, but I didn't feel like I could say it in a little black and white doodad. It was just too much to say. I mean, and we can get into world systems and all those other things, but I think I'm preaching to the choir here with you guys, so we'll just leave it there. It's not selfish to have. It's not selfish to accumulate, to provide for your family. Now, don't be a fool and tear down your barns and build bigger ones. And don't war and covet and murder and steal because you don't have what you want to spend it on your own lusts. Don't do that. We talked last week on Would You Feed the Prophet live stream about sharing what we have with other people even when we're starving to death. So yeah, I'm not trying to hoard anything, but chat has been active, so let's scroll back. Sean says he doesn't blame him about my brother about being off the internet. The internet's cancer. I'm looking for a decent DSLR so I can start filming stuff. Cool. I generally prefer to give my discretionary dollars to brothers or sisters in Christ. Amen to that, buddy. Sean says, I struggle with why you don't struggle with me. So you're mean if you don't give me what I didn't earn. Yep. And Sean says, if you gave 100 people the same amount in 10 years, it would all be, the wise would have the majority and the lazy would have nothing. Socialism is trash because it is bad and government is corrupt. That which governs least governs best, in my humble opinion. Adam says, I think it was William Craig that said you can't know good without knowing evil. Right, how do you know true love? So, Sean says, oh, the vile county regulations. Oh, they're rubbish. And then Sean says, you stole your land from the poor man in India, didn't you? Now all of India is going to starve because of you, Brian. It's with an I, sir. Brian with an I, not a Y. I am of the Celtic origin. Actually, my ancestors came over in the Mayflower and were very, 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 very Anglo-Saxon. I'm actually mixed race. I'm Anglo and Saxon. So, let's talk about this week coming up. Spring is here. We've got our gardens ready. We were out yesterday putting rows in for like our grocery area. There's a system I think we're going to invent and totally name ourselves called Grocery Rail Gardening. I'm really excited about it, and once I get all the details together, I'll let you know. That's a joke. My brother has a book out on grocery rail gardening if you haven't read it. But we cut our potatoes tonight, all the eyes up, and that's in the greenhouse. We hope to get those in the ground tomorrow. I have to finish putting logs around the bottom of the garden netting area to keep the wascoey rabbits out. And I've been told that human hair, lovely human hair, will help keep rabbits and deer away, apparently, because it smells like a predator. We are apex predators, after all. Even though most of America looks like the people from WALL-E now, we are still, to the animal kingdom, apex predators. And, oh, not top check. You're supposed to be latch. Here we go, latch. That's better. So, there's actually a couple of little hair cuttery places. One's called the Hairport. I think they're adorable. But I'm going to actually call them tomorrow and see if I can get some human hair. Isn't that creepy? And we're going to sprinkle it around the edge and see if that works. My farmer buddy, who's been out here for 4 generations farming, recommended that. He couldn't tell me exactly how long it worked for, but we're going to give that a go. I've also been told that human urine will do it, but we'll start with hair. Go from there. Oh, if you haven't hit the like button, if you don't mind, I would appreciate it. It helps everybody else who doesn't watch the live streams know that they should probably watch it. So we're going to put potatoes in the ground. Let's see, we have cucumbers coming up, broccoli's coming up, onions coming up, lemon bergamot is coming up. Our fruit trees are flowering. It is amazing. So, yeah, Sean says 80 years ago, we'd be under church discipline for letting our bodies be the shape that is common in pews nowadays. Amen to that. It's funny, we have sins that we like, right? And some sins that are worse than others. And so, as long as we talk about, like how bad gossip or something is that really nobody struggles with, then we're not going to talk about our bodies being a temple and obesity. That's fine. I must confess that this whole idea of growing my own food and the health benefits and things therein is a fairly new concept. I say fairly new because I'll be 40 this year, so probably in the past 8 to 10 years, I really started to notice that big ag is kind of terrible. On one hand, I think it's amazing that we can produce so much food from such small areas comparatively. But when you realize how it has to be done and some of the side effects and the chemicals and different things like that, the inhumaneness of it all with animals, it's just, yeah. It's been kind of a revelation. So one of the reasons we've pursued this lifestyle and jumped down this path is in part for better food, better nutrition, because our bodies are a temple, but also because it respects, as Joe Salton says, the pigness of the pig and the chickenness of the chicken, and using the systems that God has designed and put in place to make your own food is way more glorifying. But I must confess that for many years I thought that just about big everything was really cool because you could make such amount of things, and people were eating food for very cheap, cheaper than we've ever had a chance to eat before. And that sort of leads me to my next topic, which is the uncertainty in the world. We're not going to get too deep into this because everybody knows the world is nuts, but it's been nuts for years. The thing is, we have been spoiled with how good we've had it, with how easy we've had food. Oh yes, Pure One says tastes so much better. That's a fact. That is a fact. And Sean says you can better serve your neighbors when your body functions the way the Lord intended. Absolutely, 100%. Oh man, I lost my train of thought. What was I talking about? I'm sorry, I'm very tired. It's been such a long week. Big ag void of nutrition. GMOs and chemicals should be replaced by natural practices. Amen to that. It's just, Uncertainty in the world. That's what it was. Thank you. Um, we have had an abundance of certainty for generations, more so than we've ever had before. Probably, at least in the Western world. Um, yes, you're right. Thank you, Janet. Says Permapasture Farm sells a bone sauce which keeps deers out. Yep, Billy does have that bone sauce. That's very true. Um, we have not had to worry like they did in not too distant past about if it doesn't rain, we won't have food. If the weevils come, we won't have food. The Irish potato famine, diseases that we don't know the cause, origin, or any way to be safe from. The Vikings coming over the corner, barbaric raiders coming around the corner. There are so many things that have been put in place to insulate us from hardship that we really have, in some ways, turned into the Wall-E people. I don't know if you've ever seen that movie. I don't necessarily support Disney, but sometimes they get things right by accident. And the people float around in the chairs and they have the screen right in front of them and they're just fed constantly. That's what we're becoming. And hard work work itself is frowned upon. Why would you sully your hands? I mean, we have gotten so far away from good, healthy things. So we don't have to worry about uncertainty in the world, though. If we are Christians, we know what the end game is. We know what the end result is. We know where we end up. So, I think it's Matthew 26 says, don't worry about the evil in tomorrow. There's evil enough in today. Yes, thank you, Sean. Sean says Wall-E was DreamWorks pre-Disney. I think you're right. I think it was pre-Disney. Don't worry about tomorrow. There's enough evil in today. Do we plan for the future? Sure. I mean, do we know? Do we try and leave an inheritance for our children? Of course. These are all good things. But there's enough evil in today. And I think that's why Jesus, when he taught us to pray, said, give us this day our daily bread today. That's what we ask for. That's where it comes from. It's not the supply chain. It's not big ag. It's not even my own hands trying out here to wring it. It's by the grace of God that I have food, regardless of where I live. If it's in a city, if it's in the country, doesn't matter. It's all because of him. He holds all things together for his good will and pleasure. When we recognize that, and we recognize the stewardship that we have, it's a whole different thing. I don't raise food to the glory of myself. I raise food to the glory of God. Whatever you do, rising, eating, drinking, sleeping, talking, do it to God's glory. So if you're in an apartment and you can't grow all of your food for a year and stuff it together, then you live each day you can to the glory of God where you're at and trust him to take care of you. So I was thinking today in church actually about a steward operating on a large farm. Let's take a property, a business, ag, doesn't matter. So your job is to run all that stuff, manage it, grow it, make it do well, all those things. And let's say the owner comes in and says, hey, by the way, the back 40, yeah, I sold that. So do you as a steward panic? No, because the owner can do with the property what the owner wants. You go, okay, well, maybe we have these other 40 acres over here, so we'll double our efforts over there. Or they come in and they say, hey, I bought new equipment. We're going to use it on the property. Great. Do you panic? No. Do you worry about it? No, because your job is to be wise with the things that the owner has entrusted you with, wherever you're at. And this is the other, I guess, the end point for the fairness question about land. In the story of the talents, the parable of the talents, one had 5, one had 3, one had 1. Nowhere in the story do we hear the guy with 1 complaining about the guy with 3 or the guy with 5. Or the guy with 5 lording it over the guy with 3 or the guy with 1. They were each entrusted with whatever the owner wanted them to have, for the owner's good pleasure. When we understand that we are creation, not creators. Now, we are made in the image of God. We have the ability to create. That's not what I mean. You guys know what I mean. Our place is not above God. There is God, there is us, and it's a huge gap. He can do with us what he wants. He can give us what he wants. He can take away what he wants, and it's still his. He has every right in the world to do so. Your right is to be faithful with it and to use it properly. So when nothing is yours, it's easy to share, right? It's easy to have an open hand because it's not mine. It's not mine. When the owner says to the steward, hey, if anybody shows up in a pickup truck, give them a truck full of hay and send them on their way. Don't even worry about, don't worry about the payment. I'll handle it. Do you panic? No, because it's not your hay. It's the owner's hay. Why are you worried about it? We're worried about it because we war and lust and do not have and covet and do things for selfish ambition. We want to be the owner. That's what it boils down to. We all want to be the owner in some form or fashion. And I'm speaking about the world in general. But we all have our own selfish bents ourselves. Just because we're saved and Christians doesn't mean we're fully sanctified yet. Pure One says, we endure and be the light in a dark world. Amen. Sean says, if you can't do it to God's glory, don't do it at all. The complaints come from a false sense of entitlement. Amen to that. Pure One says, grateful for what we have and use it to God's will. And then Sean says, there's as much gap between us and God as there is between a pimple on the foot of a flea and God. It's an infinite gap of difference. Correct. That's right. It's a huge difference. His ways are not our ways. His thoughts are not our thoughts. He has given us what we need to live our life and still fall short without giving us any more than that. So anyways, I know I've kind of been all over the map today, but there's been a lot of things going on. And when I get tired, I have a hard time keeping my thoughts all focused. I get all flibberty-bibberty and kind of wide open. Today was a lovely Sabbath. I finally was back off duty. My job, unfortunately, requires me to work 3 out of 9 Sundays. So this is the first Sunday back in church after almost a month. And then we came home and took a lovely nap, which I haven't done also in a few weeks. And then I puttered around with the animals and filled up water containers and scratched pigs on their flanks and chased chickens back into their nests and picked eggs and filled water barrels and just generally puttered around the property and had a good time. Hey, Simmons, how are you? Oh yeah, Sean says, tired, don't be. That's how it works. That's right. I'm sorry. Oh, I feel better. Great. Awesome. All better. Yay. Carolyn says, God is good and has a wonderful plan for our lives. And it's his plan. We are the creation. He can do with us what he wants. So, coming up this week, we're planting potatoes. Lots of potatoes. Potatoes are one of our staple crop for survival. Make sure we can eat while the economy goes to poop. I love potatoes. We eat a lot of potatoes. You can do almost anything with potatoes. Boil them, mash them, stick them in the stew. They store well, they keep well. So we're going to do that. What else? I work Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday this week. No, I'm sorry, I work Tuesday, Thursday. I have family coming into town on Saturday. My sister and her family are coming down from further afield, and they're going to see this place for the first time. So, she mentioned, what kind of taters, Brian? We have russets, goldens, some reds, and some sweet potatoes. You want to come visit? Well, come here. No, over here. Not on the computer. Oh. This is Caramel. He doesn't like being held, but he loves sitting on my lap. So he's going to sit here now. You might hear him bonk the microphone a bit. Come here. There, look. Say hi. We joke that this is my cat. He comes around and hangs out with me wherever I am in the house. He follows me around outside. Anywhere I'm sitting, he comes and sits on my lap. So that's Caramel. Yeah. Oh, jeez. So, and I think we have some small Goldens too that we're gonna do. But we had very good success last year at our beach roadhouse. Fingerlings are really good and quick growing. Cool. I'll look into those. Thanks, Pure One. I think when we were at our other house on very small land, we had something like 24 square feet of room, and we ended up with 19 or 20 pounds of potatoes, and they keep for a very long time if you keep them right. So we're gonna do that. The dandelions are blooming, so it's time to plant. Um, Berry cat grow potatoes. um, Someone says, I just learned this year that potatoes are determined and indeterminate like tomatoes. Huh, interesting. So our three staple crops, because like I said, I know we have a bunch of new people here. We've talked about it before, but we'll cover it briefly. Currently, our aim is for our staple crops to be potato, squash slash pumpkin, because it's all in the squash family, and beans. Hey, Billy, what's up, man? We were just talking about you like 20 minutes ago. Billy from Permapastures is here. Woo! Um, so yeah, we plan to grow, and the reason that we're aiming for potato, squash, and beans, or peas, whatever, is because those are things that we eat, right? Don't go things you won't eat, because it's a waste of time. But not only are they things we will eat, they are things that store really easy without electricity or whatever. So Pure One says cooking pumpkins. Yeah, Seminole pumpkins are actually higher in protein than a lot of other types of pumpkins, and they keep forever. So squash and pumpkins keep for an incredibly long amount of time. Hey, Brett, there you are. We were actually talking about you. We were wondering where you were. So I'm glad you popped in. I'm sorry you're busy. We'll miss you. I had to make new moderators because you weren't here. But squash and pumpkin come in their own airtight container. So if you store them right, they will keep for an incredibly long time. I mean, like over a year on your shelf in your house, they will keep. And they're super easy to cook. You just roast them. You cut them in half, scoop them out, and boom, it's done. You can cover them in olive oil. If you don't have olive oil, you know what works? Lard, pig fat, which I will have a lot of soon. We hope to harvest our first one next month. And then the potatoes we eat a ton of, very versatile, also easy to store. And then beans, the squashes and pumpkins have your carbs, right? Your energy, quick energy. Your potatoes have your starches, and then your beans have your protein. So you can eat the fresh beans while they're growing, and then you let a bunch of them dry on the vine. Again, very easy to store, very nutritious, and we will eat them. Beans aren't a favorite, but they store for an incredible amount of time, and if you mix in parts of pig with peas, it is super, super delicious. So those are our three staple crops that we're aiming to grow in huge quantities. We're also going to have a fair amount of corn that we plan to put up as well. That's an effort anyways. We'll see. We have only, for the new folks, we've only been here since August of last year. So we planted a bunch of stuff just to kind of see what would happen. Our lettuce grew fine. Our spinach died. We harvested something like 80 pounds of turnips. Turnips were delicious. White lady turnips, first time we grew those. And we planted a ton of beans, and all of the animals came and ate them while they were young. That's why we've been putting the fence up. So we expect to do better this year, but many things that we're doing this year are still trial. I mean, I know it's trial and error forever, but Betty, hello. She says she's late to the party. That's okay. We're glad you're here. Those are our survival crops, if you will, staple crops, things that we can put up for a long time, and if things go south, then we can do well. So Pure One says, I like to steam pumpkin and make pumpkin bread. Had four make it last year, hoping the year is a good one. So, and yeah, Sean says, easy solution, eat animals when they're young, get your beans back, buddy. Yep. I do hope to do some more culling of the wild animals around my area. We have removed a few rabbits. I think I told you last week that I thought I was going to shoot a rabbit. I saw a rabbit jump into the woods, sighted him in, pulled the trigger, and I ended up blowing away a pile of pine needles. Yeah, Deep South Homestead says, grow shelf-stable vegetables. With what's coming, they will be needed. Yep. Also, good to see you. Thanks for popping by. Yeah, that's why we're growing those. They are shelf-stable. That's a good way to put it. We don't need much to store them. Doesn't require the electricity. Rolling brownouts won't affect it, and you will get the nutrition that you need to keep functioning while you put other systems in place. So, survival food. But again, survival food isn't any good if you won't eat it. So grow what you'll eat, grow what you like. Sometimes grow what's fun. We are putting in a bunch of flowers because they're fun and they're beautiful and they draw pollinators. We're looking into getting some bees too. I was horrified when I learned that there's only like 2.3 million beehives in America, and like the almond crop alone in California needs 2 million of them. It's terrifying. So Simmons says, I don't know if it's a coincidence or what, but the pigs are between the garden and the woods, and I haven't had deer or any critter pressure. Maybe they don't like the pigs. Maybe. We have moved our pigs since the well, we didn't have pigs. Let me back up. When we grew our first garden, we didn't have pigs here yet. I have only seen a couple rabbits since then. So I don't know. I haven't seen any deer since then either, at least on that side of the property. I've seen them on the other side. So that might have fixed it. That might have fixed it. Hey, my brother's here too. Man, everybody's here tonight. Awesome. I appreciate the thumbs up. Thank you all for your support. We also threw up our Polyface Farm hat tonight. Even though Joe Salatin doesn't know I exist, I know he exists. So another inspiration. So my brother, David the Good, Sean Meekum is trying to buy your camera, and he says he's been emailing you and you haven't responded. So if you could respond to Sean about your DSLR, I think it was. I don't remember exactly. Yeah. So anyways, I will open it up for some questions if you guys have it. That kind of completes my thoughts that I wanted to share with you this evening about land ownership and stuff like that. Would you mind putting your address in there for him, Dave? Danny, I want to say deer don't like pigs. There you go. Pamela says, hi from East Tennessee, first time here. Welcome, Pamela. I'm glad you're here. We normally drink tea. We always start our live streams with tea. So this evening, while we are not near the beginning, we are getting near the end of our stream. It is a apple cinnamon. We have tea and talking, if you will. If you see my hands moving a lot, it's because my cat decided to join me this evening. He hangs out with me sometimes on my lap while I do live streams. This is Caramel. He's like, what the heck, man? I was sleeping. So, but yes, if you guys have any questions for me about this week, about what we're doing, about the cat, I don't really care. We'll open the floor. I do my best to, for those of you who are new to our channel, we try and encourage people. The channel is about encouragement. We want to encourage people to try things themselves, to give things a shot. Don't be afraid to fail, and just go make a go of it. You don't have to be an expert to give it a shot. So, and I try on the live streams to help encourage people with maybe perspective on life from scripture, if possible, philosophies behind doing what we're doing, and generally have people leave feeling uplifted, whether it's a live stream or one of our videos. We want you to be uplifted. It's not a it's not a shtick. Um, I don't put on a face necessarily for the camera or for the channel. I obviously think through what I'm going to say and what we're going to do, but this is who I am. Um, my wife calls me a perpetual optimist. I feel like I'm a realist. And in some ways, this might sound counterintuitive, but in some ways, fatalists are the most optimistic people. And if you have already run down the road of all the worst things that can happen, if that doesn't happen, it's a good day, right? And if it does happen, you knew it was coming anyway, so who cares? So in some ways, that's the way I am. If something goes wrong, it goes wrong. If it goes well, it goes well. I was watching one of those Alaska survival shows, which I could never do. I like to think I can. I could work hard enough to do it, but that cold would kill me, guys. I'm from South Florida, and one of the guys said one time, and I'll never forget. He said, "You can do your chores laughing, or you can do them crying, but either way, you have to do your chores." And I love that. So we choose to do our chores laughing. So we realize the world is an evil place and it's full of darkness, but we know who ultimately is in control, and we know where our home is. So why would we waste time with anxiety and worry when you could be doing something productive like praying and encouraging other people? So that's what we aim to do. So my brother says I'm an optimist. Well, there you go. He says I'm a Calvinist, which is a Christian fatalist. It's in God's hands. That's right. It makes things so much easier. So much easier. So Patricia says, good evening, everyone. Bought more seeds today. Should be done for this season. Would you think seeds would be okay from last year if they got a bit damp? Packets got a bit wet last season. Well, Patricia, I have no idea. If only there was an expert in the channel somewhere in the chat that could tell us. Hey, Suze, welcome. Suze is eating all. My brother would know better than I if the seeds are still good. I plant them and find out. I guess that's what I would do. I think I've told. Well, I'll just share again. My wife is the brains behind the gardening operation. She's the one that knows why we're planting, what we're planting, how much we're planting, what type they are, when they go in the ground, how long they take, and all those things. So yeah, there you go. David the Good says moisture and warmth are the two things that kill seeds. I would not trust them, but plant them and see if they grow. Trust but verify. Trust but verify. So my wife is actually the one that knows all of those types of things. I am the worker. I have big, grand kind of schemes on things, but she's the nuts and bolts and detail behind it. So she joined us a few weeks ago and chatted with us, and I'm hoping she will join us again soon. She's a lot of fun. Oh no, Betty says I might have an egg eater. My 10 2-year-old hens. Any ideas? We have had, yeah, Pure One says culling time. We've had it happen here and there. It's also hard to know with new layers if the eggs are soft or if they are missing some type of natural calcium or something in your eggs. And if the eggs are soft and if they break, the chickens will eat them. So it's not always one that is, it's not always the case where chicken is cracking them open and eating them. Sometimes it is just a bad egg or a malnutritioned chicken in some form or fashion. We've noticed with our chickens, if we don't get the eggs out in time, sometimes they eat them. So if we are pretty prompt with getting them, we haven't had that much of an issue. But if none of that works, then you try and identify the one that's doing it and you eliminate them. Tasty chicken. And if you have a trail cam, that's a good way to kind of keep an eye on the birds. Maybe put a Ring doorbell in your coop and see which one is eating the eggs, which one is not pulling their weight. But it's hard to know. It's hard to figure out which one it is. So Yep. Lots to do. There's always something to do. We accidentally set our woods on fire a little bit. That's in the next video that's coming out. Should be on Tuesday. We were burning a big burn pile, and an ember kind of sparked off. And thankfully, I had some people here, and we were able to get it out. I think it burned 100 to 150 square feet of our leaves. And actually, if it wasn't so windy, I would have probably let it burn and underbrushed for me. But I did not make any fire breaks between my property and my neighbor's property, and so it was very windy. It was not beneficial, so it could have gotten away from us. Thankfully, like I said, I had a few people here, so we were able to get it out. I did a little how-to on how to put out firefighters, or how to put out not firefighters, how to put out fire. My mom says me and Mrs. Flannel make a great team. You got that right. We have so much fun together. So much fun. Every now and then we'll be out in the field or in the greenhouse. We were in the greenhouse this evening cutting up potatoes, getting them ready to plant. It was just amazing just to be here. Betty says, nope, not soft. The other eggs seem okay, but I'll check. I gather at noon each day. Try the camera, see if I can borrow one. Thank you. Yeah, maybe. And like I said, if you can, I don't know if they lay at noon. All chickens are different. It's not always first thing in the morning. Typically, we get the majority of our eggs by 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning, and then there's a few stragglers by the end of the day. We've also had young chickens mixed in with our older birds, so the older birds are almost always early, and then some of the newer ladies are still figuring out how it goes. So, yeah. Well, I'm gonna have to delete the other live stream that didn't work, the one that all the static happened. I apologize for the static. I'm not sure what is going on with that. I'll try and figure it out. And I'll rename this one so that Ricki gets his proper memorial from us as best we can do it for him. And I will post Karma Happy Toes. She has a greenhouse. Her name is Lynn. Karma Happy Toes is her business. I'll put that in the description. So if any of you are interested in supporting her business, we can do that. As you guys know, we're big about community, and like Sean said earlier, we try and keep our resources in the family, as it were. Hey Sue says wildfires. Going nearish to me, about an hour. Another 10 evacuated now. Not a threat to me, but I'm ready to go get animals if I need to. Oof. I'll tell you what, fire is beautiful. Obviously, with my profession, I have a love-hate relationship with it. It's an amazing thing, but it is terrifying in the woods and in the open. I would much rather fight fire all day long in a house or a building than out in the woods. It's yeah, no. So yeah, Pure One says try adding calcium to their diet, see if that helps. The shells are calcium for them. Yeah, you can crush up. I'm sure you know, but you can crush up the shells. I've heard some people say you can bake the shells first to make them easier to crunch up. I've done it both ways. Doesn't really matter if you have a mortar and pestle. You can crush them up that way. You can crush them up in your hands. If you have an old blender that you don't like, you can chuck them in there. Excuse me. If you don't want to mess with that, you can get oyster shells. Typically from places like Tractor Supply. There's actually because we're here, the oyster festival is huge in our local town. There's places here where I can get oysters. So Betty says I fed them back their eggshells after washing and breaking very small, but I know some recommend baking them, then crush in coffee. Oh, coffee meal. Yeah, that's a good idea. Adam says, just an idea. Try using a few fake eggs and collect a couple times a day to see if it breaks them from eating the eggs. Yeah. I wonder if golf balls would work. Someone says, Brian, are you growing anything to cut feed costs or have any ideas? Always trying to figure out ways to get outside inputs down to a minimum. Yeah, I'm with you. We are. So our property is 15 acres. The vast majority of it is young woods. They harvested about 15, 20 years ago. So we have tons of young poplars, anywhere from like this big to 4 or 5 inches around. We have a 2 acre front field that is completely cleared. And then we have like another acre, which is kind of where we're growing our gardens. We're putting the pigs and chickens into the woods currently to help clean it out and reduce feed bills. But eventually we're going to clear more land, and then we're going to try and do pasture raised animals for the majority. And we're going to try and plant things that they want to eat and then rotate them through the pastures so they eat those and it has time to grow. So, yes, eventually our hope is to have a more perma-pasture type system. Billy has got it down to a science, so we're learning a lot from the videos that he has put out. But currently, our feed bill is not bad because we know a local guy, so we're getting it. We're paying basically $10 for 50 pounds, give or take. So, okay, Sean and my brother they're communicating. So yes, we want to rotate things through, reduce feed bills drastically, and then have animals in place in various stages. So it doesn't matter. I don't say it doesn't matter. It is less important how quickly they get to size. So like Cornish cross versus Jersey Giants. Jersey Giants take something like 22 to 26 weeks to get full size. Well, if you're doing feed for them for 24 to 26 weeks, that can be very expensive. Whereas a Cornish cross is ready in 6 to 8 weeks. So you could do 3 sets of Cornish cross. So but if you're not paying for the feed and it takes them a half a year to get to size, it doesn't really matter. So what we're going to endeavor to do is have batches of animals at different ages instead of trying to do, we're going to do 120, Jersey Giants or not Rhode Island Reds, Delaware Whites or Buff Orpingtons for meat, and it's going to take, half the year and all that stuff. We want to do like 20 at a time or 30 at a time in different stages. So like every 4 months, for example, we'll have chicken harvest day and rotate them around the feed plots. And then it doesn't matter how long it takes for them to get to size. That's our ultimate goal. Same thing with the pigs. Although we might end up just doing feeder pigs, doing like 3 or 4 of them, harvesting them, and then back to springtime, feeder pigs. But there's a book that my wife has been reading. She's not in here. It's a pasture book. I can't remember what it's called. So anyways, yes, we are looking at, there's different types of pasture for different ages of the animals and those kind of things. So yes, exactly. Patricia says kind of like succession planning, only animals. That's right. And I think it's, we'll see. I haven't done it yet. I'm trying to do it. But I think it would be easier to have like three days spread out of harvesting, and also it keeps my storage down. I don't have to have oodles and oodles of freezers or spend all this time smoking or sausage making or whatever the case might be. We have the 5 pigs currently, and now of the 5 pigs, 2 of the pigs are for 2 different families. So we technically have 3 pigs, but they're all going to be to size at about the same time. I don't know. I know I don't currently have room for 3 pigs in my freezers. I'm going to get some more, but that's a lot of space in the freezer. And if you are doing animals in a successive type order, thank you, Patricia, for the wonderful word, you don't have to worry as much about storage and what happens when the power goes out, and do I have enough amperage or wattage from my generator to keep my food fresh so I don't die. They stay fresh as long as they're alive. So I would like much more of a rotation thing. You have to have the space to be able to do that. and the systems in place, the paddocks set up, things like that. So I think it would be better to have things in various stages of production, because then if everything goes down all of a sudden, then I mean, you just don't harvest them. So, oh, Carolyn, thank you. You're so sweet. You didn't write a whole big note. What's the note? Pamela says, I give away my extra eggs and veg to my neighbors. I can't bring myself to charge them. I do, however, tell them that if they want to give something for them, I will accept it. Exactly. We do charge $4 for our eggs, but only to people that want them. So, but we also give eggs and stuff away too. It's not, and most of that is to pay for feed. So, Patricia says smoke can freeze. Currently, yes, and potentially dehydrate. Is the idea. Thank you, Carolyn. She says we're giving good ideas. I've been reading up on freeze dryers. I think that's really cool. They're really expensive. So not yet, but freeze drying is a way that you can preserve your food for an incredibly long period of time. And you can apparently freeze dry like everything. There was a guy freeze drying salsa. One of the issues that I've been told, again, I don't have one, so this is secondhand information, do with it what you will, is depending on the size of the freeze dryer is how much food you can actually preserve at a time. So, and it takes something like a day or a day and a half. So you can put like 14 pounds in there and it takes a day and a half to freeze dry. But once it's freeze dries, then you can keep it basically forever. I mean, that's what most of those Patriot Food Supply and those types of companies, I'm not affiliated, just saying, they provide is freeze dried food. And apparently it keeps like 90% of the nutrition. Sean says freeze dry your local code enforcement. Why? We don't want to preserve them. So I think freeze drying is amazing. You also need power to run it, and this is something that's always going on in the back of my head. If there was no power, how would I live? So Sean says that's funny. I appreciate you blogging it, but it's also funny. He says a woman who reads probably weighs less than a duck too. Get pitchforks, Jebediah. Weighs less than a duck, which makes her a witch. That is a reference to Monty Python. That's hilarious. So anyways, yes, a freeze dryer is really cool, but I want to know how to preserve things without. So that involves drying, that involves smoking, that involves salting, those kind of things. Now, obviously, if you freeze dry 10 years worth of food, then none of those things matter anymore, but I don't see myself doing that. Something that is coming up in the next video, but since you're here, we'll talk about it briefly. The little cabin we have in the back, I think is going to be prohibitively expensive to currently make into something that we would want guests to stay in. So what we're going to do is turn it into our pantry, because it is already enclosed from the outside. It does have power to it, so I can cool things in there if needed with like a window unit. It has a wood burning stove in there. And so I'm going to repair the roof on it because the roof is leaking. We're going to seal up a few cracks here and there. We removed some of the furniture already, and we're going to turn it into our pantry, because there's no way we can store that much food in our house. Excuse me, not a year's worth of food. Someone says we got a dehydrator to try this year. I figured it would save freezer room and be simpler than canning. Super cool, man. Have you used it yet? I think that's great. Pamela says, my neighbors and I are doing a community thing going on. We look after each other. It's nice and refreshing. That is awesome. We are building that currently here with our neighbors and stuff. We're working on it. As I'm sure a lot of you know, when you move into the country, it takes a while to get to know people and for you to earn their trust, quite frankly. So Homesteading Channel with Brian says, see if you can get a sponsorship for one. I might. If our channel keeps growing at the rate it grows, then I would be happy to talk to people about that. Dehydrated food is a tasty way to get through the produce. All three ways. So canning and all that stuff is something we're going to be doing. I was looking into building a smoker of sorts, and then I saw a guy on one of those survival shows who literally smoked his fish in a tarp. He hung a tarp up, built a fire, smoked it up, and did it for, I don't know how many hours, 12 hours or something, and done. So I don't know if I'll be building one or just wrapping a tarp around a tree. I'll be very honest. One of my personal flaws is I don't like to spend a lot of time on any one thing. So I'm not going to build a super nice, beautiful smoker if it takes 3 days, because I can do a whole lot more if I just slap one together. So I tend to like efficiency. So I do sometimes build nice things. Our chicken coop, in my opinion, our chicken tractor is lovely, but I don't want to spend a whole lot of time with a smoker. I just want it to work and be done. So we'll see. But we did buy a vacuum sealer. We have enjoyed that. That works really well. But again, problem with the vacuum sealer is it relies on bags. Same with the freeze dryer. Actually, the freeze dryer has bags that you have to purchase. It's a special bag, I guess. So there's a lot of there's always extra things that go with these methods of preservation. Whereas smoking, dehydrating, even salting to a degree don't rely on any additional thing. So even canning, there's ways you can can with, I think it's tallow. I watched it in a Tudor show documentary type thing, and it is they used like ceramic clay, and they boiled whatever their thing was in it, put it in there super hot, and then like beeswax or tallow or some sort of rendered animal substance they put over the top, and that was their canning. It was done. Now it was not as safe necessarily as modern canning. But if you open it and it smells bad, you throw it away. But it doesn't require anything. So I can do it with the mason jars that I have if I end up running out of lids because the apocalypse happened. So a lot of those traditional type methods that we want to do, I think freeze drying, vacuum sealing, freezing are all good for short-term crises. So if we're talking about like a power outage for a couple weeks, if you're talking about a storm, if you're talking about apocalyptic type events, or like, EMP, a solar flare, whatever, where things could be down for a year or years, I'm not sure how long those things work. Same with freezers. Freezers are great. I have a lot of freezers. I'm getting more freezers, but once I don't have power, I can only make so much power myself, and then you spend all of your time trying to create power. I've got a wood gasifier book that I'm looking into building one, mostly for fun, but yeah. So the old ways, they never had electricity to begin with, so if we can remember and relearn those things, or at least have the potential to do them, if we know how to do them and we can do them, if we have to do them, then we can. So there's like 3 levels of preparedness. You have money in the bank to buy food, you're not in debt and don't owe everybody your life. Great, wonderful. Then there's the second layer, which is where we're at right now, where we're trying to get, which is you can make your own food, but you're still dependent on modern things. So I need electricity to run my freezers, I need gasoline to run my car, I need diesel to run my tractor, those types of things. And then there's the third layer, like literally in the woods, living with a stick type thing, where like our ancestors, we can preserve food, we grow the food that keeps, we grow shelf stable food, those types of things. We retrain ourselves to be able to live where if everything goes dark tomorrow, we can live. That's the hard one, and that's where we're trying to get. So Oh, big set apart. Thank you, sir. That's very kind. Let me scroll back up because I got on a tangent there and I don't want to miss anything. Um, there's a lot of you talking about how far you are from each other, so that's pretty cool. Sean says, I don't even smoke tobacco. What's the appeal of smoking fish? Ew. Luma Acres built a cool smoker because they had a hill. Very simple, cool smoking. Cool smoking supposed to be better for you. Yeah, there's a lot to learn. Karen says smoking preserves meat. He was making a joke. Sean, I do not have a video on the gasifier. I have a book on it. Yeah, Roots in the Ground, my brother says. I think it's called the Wood Gasifier Bible or the Gasification Bible. The problem with the gasifier is it takes a lot of work. It's really cool to build. It looks like a fairly simple system. But it's a lot of work to get it to run, and you can't store really the hydrogen that comes out of it. So you have to run it to run your generator like at the same time. It's basically like spraying starter fluid into a carburetor kind of idea, if I'm understanding it right. I haven't built one, so again, I'm just reading this book. And as long as you stand there and spray the starter fluid into your carburetor, it works, but as soon as you let go, it quits. So what the guy basically said he's been doing is he's got it hooked up to his generator, the guy that made this one specifically, that wrote the Bible, the Gasifier Bible, and he runs it in the morning for half an hour, and charges up his batteries with the generator, and cools or heats his house, and gets the freezers going and all that stuff. Then he uses solar during the day to supplement, and then at night he kicks it back on again depending on the time of year, if he needs to cool things off or heat them up or whatever. And so it's a lot of work. But I think in a community type setting, if you had, again, apocalypse, everything goes tragic, whatever, and a bunch of you in Tennessee, who apparently we're all watching from, were able to get together, then if you had somebody running the gasifier while other people were doing other things, it would be a very viable system. I think for a family by themselves, unless you have like 10 kids or something, it would be very difficult to use. So, but again, it's about potential, and I love the thought of potential, of having the potential to turn my generator over with it. You do have to make some modifications to your generator and things like that. So, but it is something that you can make power with by yourself. So, and all it requires is wood. It does also, though, require a 12-volt battery. And once your 12-volt battery isn't any good, then what do you do with it? So, because that's what starts the gasification system, I think. Or the fan. I think there's a small fan in it to make it get hot enough. So, anyways, there's always something. Carolyn says EMP Shield has some very recommended products to keep your cars, trucks, tractors, home, and more safe from EMPs. I'm getting ready to order some EMP bags for my battery banks and radio. Cool. Yeah, both Danny Wanda from Deep South and Billy have done videos on EMP Shield, and if they recommend them, I think they're probably okay. I haven't looked into them personally because I'm still working on the make food myself stage, and we're preserving things as we can, but you can go broke trying to preserve everything. So at some point you have to draw the line somewhere. So yeah, but anyways, that was a bit of a tangent, but it was fun. I enjoyed rolling down it with you guys. Do you guys have any other questions for me? And oh yeah, Pure One says, I ran a call years ago and a guy had rigged up an alternator to make his own electricity. It was actually working. You can use an alternator and a radiator fan because it's DC current, and charge batteries and stuff with it. You can do that. It doesn't create a whole lot, but you can do it. And I actually saw a video with a guy who took the radiator fan and he took PVC, like 4-inch PVC, and cut them into bigger fan blades, and it made more electricity. So Simon says, I like watching a couple of Chinese girls on YouTube. They grow, harvest, process just about everything. I noticed a lot of fermenting and sun dehydrating. They always hang stuff in the air to dry too. Right. Yeah, there are a lot of super low-tech ways to preserve your food, and those are very important things to know. And there are important things to practice before it hits the fan. One of the things I really appreciate about my interview with Danny from Deep South was when he said that he and Wanda occasionally flip the breaker and just go live, and they learned how to what did they need, what didn't they need, what was beneficial, what was not beneficial. But it wasn't just, you know, we keep all this stuff in the garage and in the barn, and if we ever need it, we'll pull it out. Like they've lived it. They know that they can do it because they've done it. I think that's really important. You can fill your pantry full of food, but if you don't rotate your stock, use your stock, if you don't practice these things, it won't happen when the crisis hits. You will just starve to death. So, I mean, it's very similar, I guess, in the fire department. We train all the time. You don't start training once you end up at that fire. You train long before the fire, and you try and think of all the worst possible things that could terribly happen in the fire. And you make the truck break down, and you make your bottle not work, and you make the house collapse, and you do all these horrible things. Because if you make the training really, 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 really hard, when the actual event happens, typically it's not that hard. So, yeah, Simmons, if you want to share that channel of the Chinese, hopefully women, you said girls, but I hope they're women. If you want to share that link or just the name of the channel, that'd be great. The homesteading channel with Brian says, I got my first litter of rabbits. Happy moment toward being self-sufficient. Heck yeah, man. Rabbits are a great way to go. Great way to go. Yeah, Sean says you fall back on training, not rise to the occasion. And of course, necessity is the mother of invention. And I'm not saying that if you don't do it, you will actually starve to death. I'm sure people would figure some things out, but it would be a lot easier if you'd already given it the old college try, right? So you don't, when you're rebuilding a car, you don't start by taking the motor out if you've never done it. So you start slow and work your way up. And that's what we're trying to do here. As my buddy Sean would say, slowly, slowly. But as we like to say, grow as you grow. Well, my friends, I think that's a positive note to end on. Give things a shot. Try them, whether it's preserving. And it doesn't have to be your own food that you preserve, like that you've grown and made yourself. Go buy some from the store and give it a shot. Buy the cheap garbage that you don't want to eat and practice with that. And if it doesn't preserve, figure out what went wrong with somebody else's food, and then try it with your hard-worked, lovingly wrought from the ground, harvested food that you made yourself. And have fun with that. So, my friends, tomorrow we're planting. I will have a video up about that soon. I'm really excited. I can't tell you how excited I am about this garden. It's the biggest garden we've ever done. It's actually going to be something, huh? What do you say? Oh, I thought my wife was talking to me. She wasn't. She's talking to a kid. So yeah, we are excited to get our food in the ground for the first time in huge quantities, and hope that we are actually going to start producing our own food in large quantities, staple foods that we can eat throughout the year. So we are excited about that. Thank you for your support. Thank you, welcome new members. Thanks for joining us from the Deep South Homestead and from Perma Pastures and from my brother's channel and from everyone, Sean's channel. We've really grown the community, and we're continuing to grow. So thank you very much. God bless you. I hope you have a wonderful week. We will see you in recorded form later this week, and we'll see you again live next week, probably this time, probably this day. Happy spring, everyone. Bye.